My introduction to the world of video games started with the NES, so systems like the Atari 2600, the ColecoVision, those were before my time. I wasn't even born then, so I don't even have really any sort of emotional attachment to those systems, but I know people love ColecoVision. I know people love Atari. It's clear that with Atari VCS's crowdfunding campaign, these old companies still have value when it comes to their names. And one company that has value to their name, at least supposedly, is Intellivision. Now, I'm not really familiar with the Intellivision whatsoever, but we of course talked about on RGT News a couple months ago that Intellivision was planning to come back to the home console market. Well, today at Portland Retro Gaming Expo, the Intellivision Amico was officially revealed, and it's pretty interesting. They're definitely going for something very different. And to say that a company is going in a different route in the world of video games says a lot, because we pretty much feel like we have seen everything when it comes to the world of video games. But honestly, I've never seen or heard of anything quite like what the Intellivision Amico is planning to do for the console gaming market. So what is the Intellivision Amico? Why is this so interesting, and what are they doing so different? Sit back, relax, make sure you subscribe to the channel, make sure you enter the $100 eShop gift card giveaway in the pinned comment section down below. Make sure you enjoy my long, luxurious locks that I actually brushed for you guys this time, and let's get into the Intellivision Amico.
Hey, RGT85. Hey, Sean.
Oh my God, it's Stevie Richards! So the Intellivision Amico is being spearheaded by new president of Intellivision, Tommy Tallarico. And if that name sounds familiar to you, it should, especially if you're a retro gamer. Tommy Tallarico has done some of the best soundtracks in video game history. Games like Earthworm Jim, games like The Terminator on the Sega CD, which is one of my favorite soundtracks of all time. All of those were done by Tommy Tallarico. He's been around the video game industry for a very long time. He was also on G4 TV. So he's an industry leader and definitely a pioneer when it comes to things in the video game world. So once I heard that he was involved with the Intellivision product, I was kind of interested in it to see what sort of route he would go. I actually exchanged some emails with him over the summer. We were supposed to link up for a call about this system, but I never got around to it because I'm a bum and sometimes I forget things. But I definitely had my eye on the Intellivision product. But at Portland Retro Gaming Expo, which is currently going on right now at the time of this filming, the Intellivision Amico was revealed. And honestly, reading over this information, I can honestly say this is unlike anything I have ever heard of, which is pretty staggering to say in the world of video games. So what is the Intellivision Amico? Well, basically there's a beautiful write-up over on Reset Era that highlights what this system is going to do, what it plans to do, and what price points and things are going to be on it. So I will have a link to it in the description box down below, as I'm pretty much just going to be reading off of this post and just sort of reacting to it. So let's get into the Intellivision Amico. The Intellivision Amico is coming out on October 10th, 2020, and they're aiming for a $150 to $180 price point. So the system is being announced roughly 2 years before it actually comes to the market. So I guess they're trying to make sure they have a good stockpile of games and things like that when they actually introduce it to the market. The controllers will fit inside of the console and use wireless charging. The console has optional interactive lighting. Think like the DualShock 4 light but on the console itself. This will make the console feel alive. Controllers have a 3.5-inch 3x2 touchscreen on them. So that's actually pretty kind of cool. A touchscreen built right onto the controller. Something like we kind of saw with the Nintendo DS and things like that. I think that sounds pretty interesting. 21st century 2D chip and architecture. Focusing strictly on 2D tech and games, they don't want 2D development to be hard like on the PS4 or Xbox One due to them being a 3D focused machine. Now really the last time we heard about a system being 2D focused over 3D focused was the Sega Saturn. And then of course that at the last minute ended up changing. They wanted to do some 3D stuff in it, but Sega of Japan wanted it to be a 2D system because at the time no one really knew where video gaming was going. 3D graphics were still pretty primitive. So the first 2D based system since what, 1994? That's pretty interesting. I guess there's not going to be any sort of 3D games on here, and once we read some more of the information, it kind of comes apparent as to why they're going with that. The Intellivision Amico will do 2D work that the PS4, Xbox One, or even the PS5 cannot achieve because of that 2D first development focus. That's kind of a bold statement because let's face it, a lot of 2D games look absolutely amazing. Take a game like Cuphead, for example. Like, is that going to be something that the Intellivision could potentially run? Like, that game looks absolutely freaking amazing. It really looks like a cartoon, and of course that is a 2D game, so that's kind of a bold statement for Intellivision to be making about this. Hundreds of millions of sprites on their development hardware. everywhere. Up to 8 Bluetooth controllers will work on the console, can also use a free phone app as well to control the games. So that'll be interesting to see how that goes, the free phone app as a controller. I guess that's pretty cool for multiplayer. If you have people over your house and you don't have additional controllers or something like that, they can just download an app on their phone for free to play the games. E or E10 games only. No violent games permitted on the console, a system parents want to buy. Now that's where things get a bit dicey in my opinion, because it's cool to have a family focus on the console, but I don't feel like you should restrict developers and say, no, you cannot have a teen rated game or a mature rated game on our console whatsoever. It has to be something that everyone can play. Like a company like Nintendo obviously focuses a lot on E and E10 games, but they've also done games like Geist before, and they of course published Fatal Frame, and they have third-party companies that do mature games. I don't feel like gaming should be segmented to just a small audience like that. I think gaming should be available for everyone. So I'll be very curious to see how this decision pans out for them. When did quantity take over quality? No ports allowed on the console. No ports whatsoever. So I guess every game that is available for the Intellivision Amico has to be built from the ground up for that system. So once again, a pretty bold statement there. Remaking Atari and iMagic games will be exclusive to the Amico. All games will be $2.99 to $7.99. Download only for that price. There will be physical special edition prints, disc-based, for a premium $30 on a game-by-game basis. So that's a really low price point for the game. So is that price point going to be indicative of the game's quality? Obviously, development costs are rising for games, and while 2D games probably don't cost as much as something like a 3D game costs to make, if you can only charge $8 for a digital version of the game, is that going to also gimp what sort of games we could see? A game like The Messenger that came out on the Nintendo Switch, an absolutely beautiful 2D game that runs great and plays great, but that was a $20 game, and honestly, playing that game, I paid $20 for it, and I feel like that's a $20 game. So will that sort of hinder companies from wanting to put bigger projects on the Intellivision Amico? Leaderboards based on time, weekly, monthly, and all time, and space, city, country, and state. Trophies and achievements are tied to this to be unique. Users might get printable emails or patches to commemorate their accomplishments. Remakes of classic games with updated graphics, audio, added levels, local and online multiplayer, and more. So, that's cool, having modern touches like that, trophies, leaderboards, achievements. I don't really care about trophies and achievements, but I know there are a lot of people out there that do care about things like that. So having little modern touches on there, updated graphics for older games and things like that, that's pretty cool in my opinion. They will be paying developers to make games for the Amico. Zero financial risk for developers. Funds will be used against royalties, and dev kits will be out next summer. So the too long didn't read version of the Intellivision Amico, $150 to $180. Only games rated E or E10 will be available on the system. No ports, quality over quantity. And all games will be $8 or less unless they are physical releases at $30 or less. So what do I feel about this system? It's kind of risky. I feel like, I don't know if there's quite a market for that. I think the E to E10 only games is something very curious. I don't think that's going to pan out very well in my honest opinion, because I feel like, some people like teen rated games, some people like mature rated games. All because the game is T or M doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a good game, but I like to have the option there to have those sort of games on there. Some games are just, mindless fun with violence and stuff like that, and that's okay to cater to that segment as well as catering to kids. I feel like video games should be for everyone. So really just pandering to a smaller user base of younger users, I don't know if that's going to quite work out. The pricing structure of the games is very attractive, $3 to $8 or whatever, but will that restrict what sort of games we see on the system? Obviously, all of these games are going to be 2D based games, and is that really enough to warrant a $150 to $180 price point to buy a new system just to play these games on there? Obviously, some people are going to like the older Atari games that will be available on the system with updated graphics and stuff like that. I'm curious to see what those games are like, but really this just seems like something that maybe the market doesn't even want. Maybe there's not a demand for this, but I could be completely wrong, and maybe this system will end up being very successful. But I just feel like, I don't know, I definitely want to see some games from it before I completely write it off or anything like it, because it could have some really cool games for it. But as of right now, it's definitely going to be an uphill battle for them, I feel. And it'll be interesting to see how this all pans out. So that is the Intellivision Amico. Amico, and really curious, really curious. But let me know in the comments section down below what you think of the Intellivision Amico. Do you think there's a market for something like this? Do you think things like only 2D games and only games rated E to E10 will sort of hinder what sort of games end up coming onto the system and will hinder the product in terms of system sales? And as always, thank you for checking out this video. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. Check out other videos on the channel. Like I said at the start, be sure to enter that $100 eShop gift card giveaway. It'll be in the pinned comment section down below. Once again, this is all coming to us from Reset Era. I'll have a link to it in the description box down below. And as always, thanks for watching this video. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Later.
RGT 85. RGT 85. RGT 85. RGT